All right, guys, we are back this week for UFC Atlanta preview, predictions, and breakdown. I'm going to try to make this podcast a little bit shorter, and maybe it'll flow a little bit better, a little bit smoother than we normally do it. I want to try to keep this under an hour. Probably won't happen because I've said that before, and it just doesn't really happen. Last week, we went 9-4, which compared to a lot of other people's predictions, I feel like we did pretty good. We did have Gustafsson as the underdog. We had Waldo Cortez as the underdog. Did pick Merab in the main event. Had Van by the second or third round TKO, but we could have done better. I think Choinski had that win on the table, but those calf kicks just destroyed him. You know, if those calf kicks weren't such a big part of the equation, I think we would have seen Choinski probably edge out a decision. But it is what it is, and, you know, that's why calf kicks are so important and so dangerous in MMA. So let's kick it off. We're just going to get right into the card. I'm not going to sit here and waste any more time. Welterweight, Phil, the Fresh Prince Rowe versus Ange Loosa. Yeah, this is a tough one because I think on paper, Rowe should pretty easily win this fight. Keeping him at distance, using the jab, using the 1-2, feint and level changes, coming up the middle with uppercuts and knees, trying to use those long-range weapons against a guy in Loosa who's very compact, short, powerful guy who has to kind of get his way on the inside, work his way to the inside, and land big overhands, land big uppercuts, land good dirty boxing in the clinch, and then use those strikes to level change and get takedowns and work from the top position. Rowe has been working on his jiu-jitsu outside of the UFC, working in a lot of grappling competitions against very high-level opposition. Now, grappling in jiu-jitsu versus grappling in MMA is different. You know, jiu-jitsu on the mats for purely jiu-jitsu purposes is completely different than MMA because strikes are involved, and I don't think that takes too much to dissect in order to understand. I think that this fight's going to play out closer than it should. I mean, on paper, I think Rowe should be able to kind of just pick apart this guy from the outside, use his jab, use his 1-2, fake and feint, change the levels, uppercuts, feint, knee, and catch Loosa coming in, who's kind of a punching bag. I mean, he doesn't really move his head too much. He kind of covers up and comes back with big counters and then just rushes you forward to get you to the cage and take you down. This should be Rowe's fight to win. I could see a finish. I think Rowe is live for around 2 or 3 TKO here just by using his boxing, using that crisp jab. But like I said, we've seen Rowe get clipped. We've seen him get rocked in some fights, especially against Jake Matthews. You know, he was dominating that fight early. He got hit with some big shots, got pushed back. And he's got that tall man defense, you know, Philly shell, shoulder roll, kind of pulling back and pulling away from shots with his chin in the air. That could be a recipe for disaster against Loosa, who throws big power in his shots, but I feel like he's just a little too short and compact to deal with a guy like Rowe. But I could see one of those big power shots landing, rocking Phil, and then maybe he uses that to get the takedown. Rowe starts to recover on the ground, but spends a lot of the round on his back and could lose the fight that way. So my official pick is going to be Phil Rowe. I'm going to take the underdog. I think he wins by I could see a late TKO. I really could. I'm going to go with a third round TKO for Phil Rowe. I think he's just going to be able to kind of pick apart Ange Loosa, slow him down, work the body, and just use those long-range weapons to just poke at him. Jab, jab, 1-2, cross hook, jab, jab, uppercut, jab, jab, uppercut, hook, right hand. And I think he's just going to start to put it together and eventually break Ange Loosa down the stretch. But Loosa's a tough motherfucker, so you never know. But yeah, give me Phil Rowe, third round TKO in this one. All right, next up is a battle in the flyweight division. You got a battle between Jose Ochoa taking on Cody Durden. I got to tell you guys, I've never been a Cody Durden believer. When I finally said, you know what, I'm going to start to pick Cody Durden, he lost, and that was against Tagir Ulanbekov. So I just don't have a track record with this guy. You know, I picked Bruno Silva with the KO round 2, round 3. I think that was like plus 1,300. So I got that. I picked Josh Van via TKO. I feel like that should have happened, but Durden stuck in there and remained tough. I think that all the damage that Durden has taken in his career is going to really show its head here, especially with that beating he took against Josh Van. And I think a guy like Jose Ochoa is going to be able to test that shin and test that durability to a high degree and make Durden make mistakes and just allow for himself to get a finish. If Ochoa comes in here and beats a guy like Durden, he's right in the mix at 125 pounds. I know Durden isn't like a top contender, but he was on a little bit of a run, a little bit of a streak, and then he kind of faded back, and then he came back, and, he's just a tough guy to beat. He's in your face. He has decent power in his hands, but the only real knockout he has is against JP Buys, which isn't necessarily a good thing. It's not a bad thing, but it's not that impressive to knock out a guy like JP Buys, just based off, UFC resume. And I'm not trying to throw shade. It's just how it is. I think Ochoa is a solid striker, and he has good submissions. And I know Durden to be a guy who, if he gets rocked or hurt, he's going to look to wrestle. He's going to look to tie you up. And he's got great wrestling. He's a much better wrestler than Jose Ochoa. And people are going to say, well, Ochoa got tired in the third round against Kavanaugh, and he's going to get tired against Durden. I think both of these guys are going to be tired in the third round. I do think that Durden might be able to push a little bit of a pace higher than Jose Ochoa, but coming off that KO loss to Josh Van, I just don't know what he's got left. Well, it was a decision loss, but it was, basically a TKO. I think the ref just didn't want to stop it. But Durden still was fighting, again. Looking at this one, I think Ochoa is the better striker. I think he's better technically on the feet, and he's got huge knockout power. Big right hands, big left hooks, solid head kicks as well. Good knees up the middle. He kind of reminds me of, like a Shuto box style. Guard up, walking forward, big calf kicks, solid jabs, ripping to the body, good uppercuts, big power in his strikes, and he'll look for submissions, So he's dangerous on the feet. He's dangerous on the ground. He's a well-rounded fighter. And I just think Durden is at the point in his career where that damage is going to start to catch up to him. I do think if Durden can really get in his face, if he can land that 3-2, that's probably his best combination, the hook cross. If he can land that hook cross, pepper him with the jab, and start to get his chain wrestling going, if he's able to tire him out and then really push a pace in the third round, I could see a third round finish for Cody Durden where he just pushes a pace that Ochoa isn't able to keep up with, starts to get takedowns, and could ground and pound him into giving up his neck and getting a submission. So I think Durden's live to kind of break this guy, but I feel like the power and the ability of him to lock up submissions if he does hurt Durden just gives me more reason to pick the favorite here in Jose Ochoa. I think Ochoa, from a stylistic perspective, is sharper on the feet. I think he's more dangerous, and I think he has enough submission threats to threaten Durden if he shoots that traditional head on the outside takedown, head on the outside single or double leg, and potentially gets locked in that guillotine choke like we've seen him get caught in so many times before. Even in fights where he hasn't been finished by that specific choke, he's been caught with that guillotine and almost put away with it. So I'm going to go Jose Ochoa. I'm going to take Ochoa by a second round TKO here. But it wouldn't surprise me if it went to a decision. I wouldn't be chasing a finish prop here. But when it comes to a pure pick, I'm going to take Jose Ochoa. I think he wins. I think that he has more danger, more power. He's sharper, more technical on the feet, and he will lock up submissions if Durden has to panic wrestle in order to get away from the striking. So, I think Durden's live for round 3, but my pick's going to be Jose Ochoa. I'm going to say he wins second round TKO. And, that's going to be it for this one. All right, next up, a battle in the bantamweight division. You have the short notice, Atlanta debut for the UFC in Malcolm the Machine Wellmaker taking on Khris Moutinho. Moutinho, really known for the beating he took against Sean O'Malley and then ended up getting finished in the third round, but kept coming forward, really a fan favorite fighter. But after he left the UFC, he went on a 5-fight win streak. So, this kid is coming in here looking to make a statement. You can't sleep on Khris Moutinho, and I know everybody's going to say, oh, Wellmaker is going to destroy him, and, we'll get to that part, but you can't sleep on a guy who is getting his second chance in the UFC. You can't sleep on a guy who probably feels like this is his last chance, but I can't go off the Cinderella story. I can't go off of, oh, this would be such a great story. This isn't the WWE. This isn't professional wrestling. This is the UFC, the mixed martial arts proving ground, the premier MMA organization in the world. And for that reason, I'm going to take Malcolm Wellmaker by knockout. I think he's going to tee off on this kid. I think it might only take one shot. Moutinho got knocked out by Guido Canetti. And everybody's like, oh, he can't get knocked out. He can't get KO'd because O'Malley couldn't knock him out. But I think Wellmaker just has a different level of power than a Sean O'Malley. And it's not just that he's a powerful striker. He's very measured, very clean, very crisp, very calculated. He's insanely calculated with what he does and how he does it. And unless he gets into a brawl just to make it a show for the fans, I really think Moutinho is just going to get teed off on. But I will say this, and this is kind of giving him credit, I think Moutinho is going to make it to round 2, and I think that's where Malcolm Wellmaker is going to just catch him stepping in with that overhand right. He's going to catch him stepping in, and he's going to face plant him, and the ref's going to stop it. So I'm going to take Malcolm Wellmaker round 2 KO over Khris Moutinho. But I think he's durable and strong enough to survive the first round. I think he's going to get teed off on. I think he'll come back with some shots of his own. If Wellmaker is starting to kind of tee off on him but not get him out of there, and Moutinho just starts to continue to come forward, then maybe he could break a guy like Wellmaker later if it gets to round 3, but I just don't see that happening. I like Wellmaker's how calculated he is. I like his footwork, his measures, the way he measures and controls the distance, the shot selection. He picks his shots very well. So I'm going to take Malcolm Wellmaker. I think he wins. I think he makes good on the Atlanta, appearance. And I think he wins by second round knockout. So give me Malcolm the Machine Wellmaker, round 2 knockout over Khris Moutinho. Next fight up is in the welterweight division. You got a battle between Court McGee taking on Michael the Maverick Chiesa. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this fight just because I don't really think this fight is important. I think that this fight is going to be closer on paper than what the odds are telling you, but that's usually the case with most fights. I think McGee is a tough and durable guy. He's a veteran. He comes forward, doesn't have the best striking, but kind of clubs his punches in there, big overhands. Solid straight punches, but he doesn't really have that much. I guess I could say he's not the most durable at this point, but in fights I've expected him to get knocked out in, he finds a way to survive. He's got good wrestling and good grappling. I think if he's on top of Michael Chiesa, he could be winning a lot of minutes and potentially winning rounds if he gets takedowns and controls Chiesa. But Chiesa's also a guy who's got one foot in the door and one foot out. Okay, he beat Tony Ferguson, who is basically the poster child for CTE at this point. And yeah, he won. He submitted him. That's a great win for him. But I don't think Chiesa is going to just come in here and maul Court McGee. I think it's going to be a closer fight than people expect. I think both of these guys are going to get takedowns. I think it might be kind of a gritty, grindy wrestling performance. But I do think that later in the fight, Chiesa's youth is going to show its head, and I think eventually he will get Court McGee tired. It's tough because McGee's a tough, durable guy, and he's not going to quit on himself. He's not going to give you a win. That's the one thing about McGee that makes this fight tricky, is he's not going to give you a win. Even if he's losing, he's still going to try to get back up. He's going to try to reverse position. He's going to try to get takedowns of his own. But I think Chiesa is just too long and gangly for a guy like Court McGee. That's the best way I can describe it. I think he's too long and too lanky, and when he's on the ground, I think he will find a way to get the back of Court McGee. I think he will find a way to lock in that body triangle that we see a lot and just pepper him with shots until he eventually gives up his neck and he gets a rear naked choke. So I'm going to take Michael Chiesa. I think he wins by a second round rear naked choke submission. But again, I could see this fight going to decision where Chiesa's outstriking him, gets hit with some big shots, but Chiesa ends up winning the fight by controlling the back and looking for submissions, but McGee just survives and loses the round. So I could see Chiesa winning like a 30-27. I could see him winning a 29-28, but I think eventually he's going to take the back of Court McGee. He's going to lock in that body triangle. He's going to use that length on the ground, and he's going to start peppering him with some shots, open him up for the rear naked choke, and get the tap. So give me Michael the Maverick Chiesa, second round rear naked choke submission over Court McGee. I think he's going to find a way to get the finish here. But again, McGee's a durable guy. He might be able to fight off that choke and just lose based on control time. So could go to decision, but I'm going to go Chiesa round 2 rear naked choke. All right, next fight up is in the light heavyweight division. You got a battle between Atomic Alonzo Menifield and Oumar Sy. Yeah, this is a good fight, guys, but I got to be honest with you. I just don't trust Alonzo anymore. I think his chin is pretty much gone. I mean, I know he got KO'd by Mirzakhanov and he got KO'd by what's it called? Oh, I can't forget. Carlos Olberg. Man, I don't know why I couldn't remember. The Olberg one, he just rushed in, got himself caught. I think if he would have played that a little bit more safe, he probably would have had a better shot. He had those wars against Jimmy Crute, and then he cracked him and subbed him in the second fight. And the first fight was a draw, but it was back and forth. I just think Oumar Sy is too well-rounded for a guy like Menifield. If he's not winning on the feet, he can take him down. He probably can take his back. I think Menifield has decent takedown defense. He has strong, solid hips. He has stuffed a lot of takedowns before. But I think Oumar Sy can kind of just work his way into those clinch positions, work his way into those body locks, and I think he can get the takedowns from non-traditional positions. Inside trips, outside trips, dragging him one way, dragging him back the other to manipulate his weight. And using those trips to get on top and then beat him up with some ground and pound. And I think he could get a ground and pound TKO. I think he could get a ground and pound into Menifield opening himself up to get submitted. But when I really look at it from a stylistic perspective, I think it's a nightmare matchup for Alonzo Menifield. I think Menifield has the power to hurt just about anybody in this division. If he plays it safe and plays it smart, I think he could find a knockout. I think Menifield is pretty much knockout or bust here. I don't think he gets takedowns and controls Oumar Sy. I don't think he, submits Oumar Sy. But I think he could potentially get a KO. And that's really what it is with Alonzo in most fights. Even in the Jacoby fight, I kind of figured he was knockout or bust. But he was able to drop him in every round, and that's what swayed the judges towards that decision. He was losing every minute of that fight until he landed that big gazelle left hook, until he landed that big right hand. And he kept catching him with those shots and dropping him, and that was winning him the rounds. So we could have a similar situation here, but I think Oumar Sy is going to be too crisp, too technical. I think he's going to have a calculated game plan. I think he's going to stay out of danger, work his way in. I think he's going to take down Alonzo Menifield. I think he's going to beat him up with ground and pound, and I think he's going to get a arm triangle choke submission. I'm going to go with Oumar Sy, round 2, arm triangle choke submission. I just have a feeling that this guy's going to work in his grappling, work in his jiu-jitsu, and take him down. And I also, like I said, I don't trust the durability and the chin of Menifield anymore. I think he could rush in with a big shot and get clipped and get rocked and get knocked out. So I think Oumar Sy's live for a KO. I think he's live for a submission. And I think if you're on the side of Menifield, you have to just bank on that KO, which he does have a lot of power, but he hasn't been knocking out a whole lot of guys recently. So you have to look at that as well. So I think Sy has a good game plan, sticks on the outside, pops the jab from the outside, works his way into takedown range with his punches, gets to the body lock, gets those trips, beats him up with ground and pound, arm triangle choke submission. Give me Oumar Sy, round 2, arm triangle choke submission. I think he gets that sub, and I think he gets a big win, the biggest win of his UFC career. All right, up next, you got a battle in the middleweight division between Mansur Abdul Malik taking on Cody Brundage. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this fight. People are going to tell you why Cody Brundage could win this fight, and I'll give you one caveat. Brundage did, he has the ability to knock out Mansur Abdul Malik. If he lands with that right hand, if he lands a big shot on the feet, I think Malik can go down. If you go back and you watch that Nick Klein fight, he got hit with that spinning back fist and almost got KO'd. But he survived and he came back, and, it is what it is. But I just think Brundage is more live here than people are going to give him credit for. I don't think Mansur Abdul Malik has proved much of anything yet in his UFC career, aside from the win over Dusko Todorovic. But I do think that this is kind of a tee-up spot for Mansur Abdul Malik. I think potentially Brundage might look okay, might land one big shot that kind of rocks Mansur. But I think he's going to just come back, and I think he's going to land on the chin of Brundage. I think he's going to hurt him. I think he's going to rock him. I think Brundage is going to throw a big shot back. Malik's going to, fade away, come back in, big elbows, big knees in the clinch. I think he's going to drop him against the cage, and I think he's going to get him out of there in the first round. I don't want to sit here and talk about this for hours and, this can happen, and Brundage can win, and Brundage is a good underdog. He's not a good underdog. I think Brundage is going to get ran through. I think Brundage is going to get KO'd, and I think there's not much more to say about it. He's live for a knockout. Like, if you're going to play Brundage, you might as well just play Brundage by knockout. But I think this is kind of like the Bo Nichols situation where people are like, oh, Nick never faced anybody like this guy, and he can get a submission, and Brundage can do this. Like, he might look better than what the number says, but at the end of the day, he's still going to get finished. So give me Mansur, Abdul, Malik. I'm going to take him by a first-round TKO over Cody Brundage. I think he's going to hurt him. I think he drops him, and I think he finishes him up against the cage. So Mansur, Abdul, Malik, round 1 knockout over Cody Brundage. Ain't much more to say about it. Let's move on to the next one. All right, up next, we got a battle in the bantamweight division between Raioni, Barcelos taking on Cody, No Love, Garbrandt. I love this fight. I like both of these guys. I've talked very highly about both of these guys on my podcast before. Yeah, I think this is closer than the odds will tell you, and I think a bunch of people are going to jump on Garbrandt as an underdog, and I do think he's a good underdog, but I just think in terms of how the fight's going to play out, I don't think Garbrandt's going to run through Barcelos, and I think Barcelos is live to KO Garbrandt. And I also think Barcelos is live to out-wrestle Garbrandt, which is going to be probably the path that people aren't expecting too much. But after that Davison-Figueiredo loss where he got taken down, out-wrestled, got submitted, yeah, I think Barcelos would be smart to use his wrestling, use his takedowns. He's a very high-level grappler, and if he gets the back of Cody Garbrandt, there's always that chance that he locks up that submission and potentially gets another rear naked choke. But I think for the most part, the fight is going to play out on the feet, and I think Garbrandt will stuff a majority of the takedowns of Barcelos. And I just think that Cody Garbrandt is a little bit too fast for a guy like Barcelos at this point in his career. Now, you're going to look at the fight with Peyton Talbot and say, like, oh, Talbot's, this, he's explosive, he's fast, he's quick. And yeah, Talbot should have knocked out Barcelos, but he didn't. And he got out-wrestled, he got out-controlled, he got taken down, and he got exploited. He got his ground game exposed. I don't really think Garbrandt's going to get exposed on the mat, but I do think that's the best way for Barcelos to win is to use his wrestling, use that jab, use that 1-2, and then use that to go into the takedowns. But I think Garbrandt's going to be expecting Barcelos to wrestle, and I kind of think this fight's going to play out similar to the Trevin Jones fight with Cody Garbrandt. I think he's going to just kind of pepper him, stay on the outside, stay on his bike, use the 1-2s, use the footwork, pop, 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 move, pop, pop, move, pop, 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 move, feint the level change, uppercut, hook, move, head kick, move. And I think it's going to be close. I think Barcelos might come back in the third round. I think there's a sneaky play here with Barcelos potentially being live for a round 3 TKO because I think Garbrandt will slow down just because he's going to be on his feet. He's going to be on his bike. He's going to be moving. I think Garbrandt's live for a KO. I mean, Barcelos got knocked out by Oumar Nurmagomedov, and I know it's Oumar, so you got to take that with a grain of salt. But at the same time, we never really see Oumar knock people out, and he kind of caught him with just that little shot that put him down. I think Garbrandt could KO Barcelos on the feet, but I think he's going to play it smart. I think he's going to play it safe. I think Barcelos could knock out Garbrandt on the feet, which is why I'm not going to go tell you, oh, bet on Garbrandt, he's a this and that. Garbrandt can always make that mistake, be winning the whole fight and get knocked out. I mean, that's basically been the story of his career. He's winning a lot of these fights until he gets bonked, and then, oh my God, that's it, he lost. So with this one, though, I think Barcelos is going to make this competitive. I think Barcelos will get at least one takedown. I think Barcelos will be competitive on the feet, but at the end of the day, I just think Garbrandt's going to be too fast for him. I think he's going to be throwing combinations too quick. His footwork's going to be too fast. He's going to be hitting those low kicks, popping up top, pop, 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 boom, rip the low kick, boom, hit the shot, move, slick, get some takedowns of his own. He's going to have to watch out for a guillotine. I think Barcelos will threaten with that guillotine choke because I think Garbrandt will get at least a couple takedowns. But at the end of the day, I'm going to take Cody Garbrandt to win. I think it's going to play out similar to the Trevin Jones fight, and I think he's going to win by decision. So give me a 29-28 unanimous decision for Cody No Love Garbrandt. He's live for a knockout. He's always live to get finished. It is Cody Garbrandt. So take it with a grain of salt, but I'm going to take Garbrandt to be the quicker, slicker, faster fighter, more calculated fighter, and just kind of outwork Barcelos over 15 minutes. Use footwork and range to not get caught and win the fight. So give me Cody No Love Garbrandt, 29-28 unanimous decision over Raioni Barcelos. All right, up next, you got a battle in the middleweight division between Ange Petroski and Edmen Shahbazyan. Both of these guys are glass cannons. Both of these guys can be finished. I think we know that if Petroski's going to win, he's going to have to take Edmen down, get on top of him, grind him out, and do exactly what Gerald Meerschaert did. And I think he's more than live to do that. I think that he could get on top of Edmen and beat him up and make him quit. Edmen is not good off the bottom. He doesn't really fight to get back up to his feet. He will surrender a lot of positions, and he's good in the initial takedown defense, trying to stuff the head, trying to spread his legs out if you put him up against the fence, widen his base. But once you get him on the mat, he's kind of a fish out of water. He doesn't really know how to get back up to his feet. He'll sit there, get beat up on, and then usually he'll give up a submission. And I kind of see a similar situation here where I think Petroski could do the exact same thing. But I'm using the ideology that every fight starts on the feet, and I just don't think Petroski can last on the feet. I think this is going to play out very similar to the Dylan Budka fight, where they're going to start out on the feet. Maybe Edmen stuffs 1 or 2 takedowns. Edmen's going to hit Petroski with one big shot. It's going to hurt him, and he's going to kind of cower up and get finished. I mean, this is the same guy who got knocked out by a hip on a takedown entry against Jacob Malhoun. Now, I've picked Petroski in the past before. I've picked him to win fights. I even picked him to beat Jacob Malhoun. I've picked, it's a guy that I don't have hatred for. I've picked Petroski plenty of times. I've picked Edmen. I've picked against Edmen also. I think that Edmen's just going to land a big shot and put down Petroski. I think Petroski looks good, but when you hit him with a big shot, he tends to back away. He tends to kind of cower into a corner and doesn't want to continue fighting. And I just see a similar situation. I could even see Edmen timing a knee as Petroski shoots a takedown and catching him that way and knocking him out. So I think this is a close fight. But whatever way it plays out, it's not going to be close. So I think the grappling of Petroski, the top position, the pressure, the submission game, that could win him the fight. The striking, the counter game, the 1-2s, the straight punches from Edmen, that can win him the fight. If it stays on the feet, Shahbazyan wins. If it goes to the ground, Petroski wins. That's what I mean by it's close, but it's not going to play out close depending on whoever wins the fight. So give me Andre, I don't know. I just said the person who I didn't think was going to win. I almost picked him. So give me Edmen Shahbazyan. I'm going to take him round 1 knockout over Andre Petroski. Potentially could be round 2. But maybe you should go with Petroski because I was just about to say give me Petroski. But I think it's either Petroski by sub or Edmen by knockout. So, give me Edmen Shahbazyan round 1 knockout over Andre Petroski. Could be round 2. But I think he's going to clip him on the feet, and as you know, every fight starts on the feet. So that's what I think, and I'm going to go Shahbazyan KO round 1. All right, everybody, now we're at the co-main event of the evening in the women's flyweight division. You have a battle between Miranda, Fear the Maverick, taking on Thug Rose Namajunas. This one, I think the obvious pick is Namajunas. She should win. Theoretically, she's the much cleaner striker. She uses a lot better footwork than Maverick. She sticks on the outside. And I really think the only way that Maverick wins this fight is by relying primarily on her kicking game, trying to throw head kicks, body kicks, and low kicks and slow down the movement of Namajunas, attack that lead leg, attack the inside leg, and then push Namajunas up against the cage and use her power. The one thing I think that kind of plagues Namajunas at flyweight is her strength and how, strong she is. She's always kind of undersized in the division. And I think for Maverick to win, she has to make this dirty and nasty. Get on the inside, push her against the fence, get to the body lock, use the inside and outside trips, get to the top position and just kind of wet blanket her, land, ground and pound. Look to set up submissions and control from the top position. I just really don't think that's in the cards here for Maverick. I think the movement and footwork of Namajunas, paired with the ability to just kind of change stances and glide around the octagon, switch stance, straight hands from orthodox and southpaw, the head kicks off the punches, the fakes and the feints, the switch stance, outside trip takedowns that she uses to close the distance. I think she's just kind of outmatched in every aspect of the game. But when it comes to breaking down a Namajunas fight, you always have to remember the mental side of MMA. You know, she might be the more skilled fighter on paper. She might be way better at multiple aspects of martial arts than Miranda Maverick, but she might be off mentally, and that'll make the fight closer. Maybe she gives up more takedowns to Maverick. Maybe she lays on her back for a longer time instead of throwing up submissions and looking to get to a hip and get back to her feet, looking to, you know, sweep with the butterfly guard, or, you know, look to set up avenues for her to get back to her feet. Maybe she's having an off mental day. Maybe she's not there, and she gives up more time on the ground, allows for Maverick to get some ground and pound and control time off, and maybe Maverick could win a greasy split decision. I always think that the opponent, or the fights when it comes to Namajunas in a 3-rounder, they can always be a split decision. I always think that just by the way Namajunas fights, there's always that chance that you believe that she won, but the fight was closer than you thought, and the judges just lean towards her opponent. So I think Maverick by split decision is a solid play, not because I'm picking against Namajunas, not because I don't think Namajunas is the better fighter, but I just think, you know, mentally sometimes she's not there when she fights, and she loses fights that she should be winning. Just go back and look at the second fight with Carla Esparza. Namajunas was a huge favorite in that fight, and a lot of people expected her to win, and not only win, but to get a finish, and they just kind of stared at each other and stayed on the outside and didn't do too much. But Namajunas got taken down a couple times, and that swayed the fight. Now, that was a 5-rounder. This is a 3-rounder. This could almost make it more of a case for a split decision. So if I have to take a pick, I'm going to take the fighter who I think is the better fighter. I'm going to take Namajunas, but I'm going to take Rose Namajunas by split decision, 29-28 split decision. I think the fight's going to be close. I think Maverick will get some takedowns. I think she'll have some good moments, but I do think they're going to end up giving it to Namajunas. But I think Namajunas by split decision is solid, and if you want to take a shot on Miranda Maverick, you should just take Maverick by split decision, because Namajunas might be better. Technically, she might have the better tools in her game, whether it's on the feet with the striking or on the ground with the grappling and the jiu-jitsu, but sometimes her mental game is off, and it makes the opponent have more of a chance than they should if she was fully on. You never know, so I think Maverick could win a split decision, but I'm going to take Namajunas 29-28 split decision in the fight, and that's going to be the pick. All right, now we're at the main event of the evening in the welterweight division. You got a battle between the former champion in Kamaru, the Nigerian nightmare Usman, taking on Joaquin Buckley. This is a good fight, guys. Really solid fight, a good main event. Usman coming in after that short notice fight against Khamzat Chimaev, where he lost 29-28 unanimous decision. But he was winning in that third round. Some people thought he did enough to win that fight. And if you remember, that fight was actually up at middleweight. So now Usman's going to have a full camp, full weight cut, be down at 170, and he's fighting a guy who's on a streak in his division, coming off of a TKO victory over Colby Covington, a knockout win over Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I mean, Joaquin Buckley is on the rise. He's got a very good hybrid style between traditional martial arts like Taekwondo and karate, mixed with boxing with his weaves, bob and weaves, his rolls, kind of a peekaboo boxing style, Mike Tyson-esque, mixed with long-range weapons like side kicks, front kicks to the knee, head kicks from both sides. Even, you know, seeing him do that spinning two-touch kick after Impa Kasanganay caught the round kick, shifted it across his belly, he jumped and did a jumping spin kick. So basically like a two-touch spinning back kick to the face, knocked out Impa Kasanganay, one of the best KOs in UFC history. Had a head kick knockout over Andre Fialho. Yeah, I think this is a case of the welterweight division recently where the older guard is just crumbling to the ground, you know, and the new guard is building a foundation. You've got guys like Ian Gary, Carlos Prates, Sean Brady, Jack Della Maddalena now being the welterweight champion after beating Bilal Muhammad. I think Bilal, Usman, Leon Edwards, Stephen Thompson, that's the old guard, and they're getting passed by. And I think the trend continues in this main event. I think Joaquin Buckley is going to finish Kamaru Usman. I don't want to sit here and tell you, you know, oh, this and that, and Usman this. I think Usman has a chance because I almost feel like Buckley might try to get into a brawl to make his name. And I think Usman, he doesn't have the cleanest striking, but he has a good straight punch, a good 1-2, and a really solid jab. Will switch stances to southpaw as well and use a good jab from southpaw in that regard as well. But he's also coming in, injured knees, has to walk up and down the stairs backwards because his knees are so messed up. Basically why he abandoned the wrestling. So I think those knees aren't going to get better with this time off. And I kind of imagine he's going to be striking in this fight as well, not really using his wrestling. Colby Covington had some success with his wrestling, but it didn't last long before he was getting his face boxed off by Joaquin Buckley. And I think it's going to be a similar thing here, except I almost feel like Covington is a little bit more durable in the amount of shots he can take before he goes down. I feel like Usman, his chin might crack a little bit earlier. I know he got head kicked by Leon Edwards. He went toe-to-toe with Chimaev, but got rocked and wobbled at certain points, but didn't get dropped or anything. I think this plays out primarily as a kickboxing match for as long as it lasts. I think Usman looks competitive in the first 2.5 rounds, like round 2, round 3. I think he looks good, maybe pops his jab, lands the 1-2, lands a big shot, starts moving around, and it's competitive. But I think in that 3rd, 4th, and 5th, that's where Buckley starts to really turn it up, use those side stance or lateral movement with the rolls and the bob and weave peekaboo style, and starts landing his boxing combo, starts landing some kicks to the body. I think we're going to see a lot of low kicks to the inside and outside of the lead leg of Kamaru Usman. I think he's going to use some side kicks to the body. I think he's going to be moving in and out with those cross and hooks, the crosses to get in and hooks to exit out. And I think he's going to just start beating up Kamaru Usman in that 3rd round. And then I think in the 4th round, that's where Buckley is going to land that big shot against the fence that rocks Usman. He's going to jump on him. He's going to put a combination together, and he's going to finish him off. So my pick is going to be Joaquin Numansa Buckley to finish Kamaru Usman via 4th round TKO in the main event of UFC Atlanta. I just think it's Buckley's time. I never thought that Buckley was going to get this high up in the rankings. I never thought Buckley was going to be 1 or 2 wins away from a title shot, but he's been proving me wrong. I picked him against Stephen Thompson. I picked him against Colby Covington. I'm going to continue the trend, and I'm not going to jump off now. I think he finishes Kamaru Usman. I don't think Usman's going to be able to use his wrestling, which in my opinion would be his best path to victory, would be tying up, taking him down, and tiring him out. But I mean, he doesn't really wrestle anymore, and on the feet, I just think the movement, the in and out movement, the lateral movement, the big shots with the big hooks and kind of pushing him against the fence and really putting all that power into those meat hooks that Buckley lands, I think he's going to put it on him. And he's got good fight IQ. The guy moves well. He picks his shots well. He has decent defense. Like, he's not a meathead and a bum. And I think he's going to put it on Usman. I think he hurts him up against the fence and puts him down and gets a 4th round TKO. So the pick for the UFC Atlanta main event is going to be Joaquin Numansa Buckley via 4th round TKO over Kamaru Usman. I just think it's the new guard's time, and that's going to be it. So I hope you guys enjoyed my UFC Atlanta preview, predictions, and breakdown. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and smash the notification bell. Please hit the like button. Please. It's all I'm asking. The more of you guys that hit the like button, the faster that these videos get out, and the more views we can get, and the bigger we can grow this channel. There will be more pro wrestling videos coming very soon. Maybe I'll even post one today. I'm just going to think of something I got to talk about. I've got a few ideas in the chamber. But yeah, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, smash the notification bell with a scissor flying knee into a rear spinning elbow, into a lead hook, into a rear head kick. Put that flashy combination on him. And I'm your host, Double M. This has been my UFC Atlanta, Usman versus Buckley preview, predictions, and breakdown. And I'm out.